All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. My name is Todd Browse. I'm your host for the evening. I'm here with Susan Schultz and Ashley Wilson, and we would like to welcome everyone to HBAP Startups. So let's get started. Um, First, for those of you who are new to the Startups group, we have a few announcements at the beginning of each meeting, and we'll do some short networking breakout rooms, and then we'll come back together for our main event. First off is our mission, which is we're here to help foster and fortify an innovation and entrepreneur community coming out of the Harvard Business Analytics program. And our goal is to provide our members with the tools, knowledge, leadership, and confidence necessary to create and grow their businesses from the ground up. Susan.
And I think most of you know that there are lots of ways to get in touch with us and stay in touch with us. So we have sorry, I got to move this little chat thing. We have our website, we have the HBAP website, we have our YouTube channel where all those presentations are posted as long as they've given us permission. We have a newsletter that you can sign up for where you will get reminders about what's coming and who's coming and all of that cool stuff. And then if you're in HBAP or have graduated from HBAP, you can go on to the entrepreneurship Slack channel and learn more stuff about what's going on. And then, as always, bring somebody. If you think this community seems like a place for some of your friends or people you know, bring them. We welcome everyone. And then, just a reminder, unless we get a very specific requirement from a presenter, we do post these recordings publicly. And we have so many cool speakers coming up, starting with Josh today, who came to us from Dean. And Todd is going to do his usual incredibly fun and lovely introduction for Josh. And then next week, we have our own Pedro David Espinoza. He's written a book called The Real ROI, Return on Inclusion. And what an important topic these days, right? It's a pretty hot potato right now about why is diversity, equity, and inclusion so important to business performance. And he's going to cover the results of a lot of the interviews he's had with some very significant leaders, including people like Michael Dell. And then October 9th, brought to us by Dawn Jordan, who's on the phone today, which is cool. Sherry Gunther Sugarman, who is this like awe-inspiring Emmy Award-winning producer, executive, serial entrepreneur. She produced The Simpsons, The Family Guy, Rugrats, Looney Tunes, many, many more hits. Worked for many of the animation studios, and now she has started her own company called Kazoo Badoo, which is an experiential learning platform for grade school children, in which she is using AI. So that ought to be pretty cool to hear her story. And then on the 23rd, our own Jorge Yanat, who's talking about his book, Let's Get Digital. That sounds like one of those fun songs. We can all sing that to him when he comes in. And so a transformation guide for the future of business and entrepreneurship. And then on October 30th, Andrea Brimmer, who is the founder of Hortitech and is one of Kelly's students. She graduated from Cal Lutheran. And she uses this really cool NASA technology to purify agricultural wastewater and then repurposing it as nitrogen fertilizer. So really a very sustainable and life cycle approach to reducing footprint of chemicals on the earth. And then November 20th, we have Swin Huang, who is the founder and CEO and creative director of the Number Two. And she is an award-winning eyewear brand creator that's focusing on how eyeglasses fit different kinds of faces. And what drove her to do this was she said that her Asian style face does not fit well with the kind of eyeglasses that are made in countries like the United States. So she decided to solve that problem herself. So she'll be telling us her story as well. So lots of really, really cool speakers. And so our code of conduct, just a reminder, is given the mission that Todd talked about, we want to really make sure that we create this inclusive environment for everyone with collaboration, confidentiality, and trust. And so therefore, all rights are reserved by the presenter, and we follow our honor code. We stand by the feedback approach of really just giving positive feedback. That's what works best for presenters to learn from. And then just a reminder of no personal recording of our sessions, because we are honoring the all rights reserved by the presenter. And then, as always, if there's anything you want to discuss, reach out to Todd and me and Ashley, and we will help you figure it out, whatever it is.
Awesome. Thank you, Susan. All right, let's do some social breakout rooms. I'll see you all in about 5 or 6 minutes. Recording, and everyone should be joining us again. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Let me mute folks. All right. Just as a little reminder, when you leave Zoom this evening, when you exit Zoom, you'll be a little survey that pops up. Please do fill out that survey. We love that data. We love that feedback. Just as another reminder, the recordings tonight will be made public on our YouTube channel, and then at the end of the presentation, we will end the recording. But please do stick around for overtime. Last week, overtime went until 1 a.m. Eastern time. So you're all welcome to hang out all night long. All right. But before I get to my presentation or my introduction of our guest this evening, a couple of pieces of news that have hit the world. Meta, Facebook, released a new model today called Llama 3.2. I highly suggest you take a look at it, and you can also play with it just going into meta.ai. Also, for those of you who are in this area of the universe, Quinn 2.5 is a fantastic new model that came out of the Alibaba group. And also Molmo, which is another open AI, sorry, not open AI, but open source multimodal, I can't speak, model that's been created. I highly suggest you take a look at that. And if you're concerned about how we are going and how rapidly we're going, here's a fantastic paper on a preliminary study of O1 in medicine. Are we closer to an AI doctor? And the answer is yes. By the way, for those of you who might not know this, O1, that's O1 Preview. That's one of the latest large language models that have come out of OpenAI. All right, and now, tonight, it is my honor to introduce tonight's speaker, Josh Lewthwaite. Some incredible facts about Josh. At the age of 15, Josh was New Zealand's youngest ever qualified tennis coach. And then at the age of 20, he was one of the youngest head coaches in the world. He was also a DJ for 6 years, playing alongside some of the world's biggest music artists, and I'm dying to hear who he's played with. He was also a business development manager at Snapcoms, which is a SaaS company. And at the age of 23, he was responsible for all of APAC, the Middle East, and SMEs across Europe. And recently, Josh founded IzzyBots, I guess in 2020. And now 2 weeks ago, it's now IzzyAgents. And in 2020, after seeing a gap in the market, in marketing strategies across sports, music, and well-followed brands. All right, I'm not going to spoil his story anymore. So without further ado, as is our custom here at HBAP Startups, if we could all please briefly unmute ourselves, and let's give a warm round of applause to Josh Lewthwaite.
Bravo.
Woo!
Thank you, everybody.
All right, Josh, thank you so much. Let me stop sharing. Welcome.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me on. And again, I'll echo what you said earlier, Dean. Thank you for putting this together and the opportunity. Now, I'm just going to share screen. Hopefully, we get technology working first. I assume you can all see my screen there.
Yes.
Yes, fantastic. Yeah, as I said, thank you for having me on, Todd. Thank you for the introductions. I've heard that you've got those pretty well packed down. That didn't disappoint. So nicely done. Yeah, as you mentioned, we recently renamed the company. So if I go saying IzzyBots, that's particularly why. Now, with what we do, a lot of it is very like recordings, just share it really well. But also, I thought this would be the best way to share my story and my journey. What you'll see from the story that I go through in my past is that, I mean, the opportunity to pretty much realizing I'm here presenting to people such as yourselves and any kind of involvement across the Harvard mentorship and supporting community is an awesome moment for me. So it's a good day to be me today, that's for sure. And I look forward to sharing the wider story. So what I thought, and Kelly and I in our breakout room just before I even touched on it, the approach I've had to life as a whole is basically be going, look, I'm passionate about tennis, I'm passionate about music. Surely if I live a life doing that, then I'm probably going to live a life I enjoy. And so that's led me to a lot of different experiences. As Todd mentioned there, so I started playing tennis when I was 13. I was actually a soccer player from like 3 till 14 years old, but I'm 6'2". So when I hit my growth spurt, my knees were not very happy. So that was the end of that. Got into tennis, and then within 2 years of playing, became a qualified coach. They actually didn't accept me on the course. I went to my coach at the time. I said, look, they've rejected me. And he's like, look, give me a moment. I'll make a phone call. And basically said, look, there's an exam at the end. If he fails, he fails. The kid needs to learn it. If he passes, then we've got a 15-year-old tennis coach. And I passed, and I was coaching tennis for 5 years over that time before becoming head coach of a tennis club. So again, just passionate about tennis. Let's go in that direction. DJing as well. So we like music. What does DJing look like? That sounds pretty cool. Sounds pretty fun. I actually got a video here, which I'm definitely going to make sure it's muted because that would be a lot any time of the day. So this was me and my DJ partner, in fact. So this was us playing one of our more memorable gigs with the camera quality back then. So jumping up and around and sharing that with a whole bunch of others too. So that's definitely one of the best memories. I'm pleased I got that on camera. So yes, life of DJing, and to answer your question there, Todd, I've played with Dylan Francis. I've actually had our own music played on BBC Radio 1. Diplo, Skrillex has played it. Being at music festivals and hearing on the main stage our own music being played. So nicely done there, Todd. Knows all the moves. Now, as also mentioned around SaaS. So I've always had a passion for business as a whole, and that's where becoming a head coach is towards that business endeavor. It was also with DJing. I was more the side where I was running it as the manager and playing. And my DJ partner, who had extreme skills, I knew I needed somebody strategically who was really good at the music side of things. So I've always had this business lens, and that's where I studied marketing at university in Auckland. And I realized, right, now that I know how to do marketing, my next skill I need to learn is sales. So I'm getting traffic in, I've got the traffic. Now I need to learn how to convert and close. So that's where I got a sales role. I started off as just an inside sales rep, picking things off. And then, yeah, very much 2 years later, when I was 23, 24, covered all of Asia-Pac, Middle East, and parts of Europe. Some results there of increasing revenue by 252% in 1 year. And the quantity of customers, so increase the value. And some key clients I worked with. So Bank of Ireland, I managed a 22,000 staff deployment globally, traveling to different areas of the boards across the world to get approval. Middle Eastern banks, that was an experience to go through that kind of due diligence and the cultural differences, and some of New Zealand's most well-known brands. Now, the story behind all of this, and this is where I kind of go, obviously I was striving for success early on, but what was the thing driving me? Who am I? What determined that? And in short, it's going, striving for the goals and achieving success was my means of escaping emotion. That was me keeping busy, achieving things, feeling validated, feeling worthy. Look at me go. And so it's really keeping in my logical mind kept me from actually feeling. Now, the things that I was avoiding, so when I was 18, I actually hit burnout. Over those years that I shared those achievements, I had set up maybe 5 or 6 businesses at the same time. When I hit burnout, I went from 175 pounds to 138. This is actually me at 180. And so lost a lot of weight very quickly. I was bedridden. I wasn't allowed to drive. And that was, I had to drop out of university, close down my businesses, everything at 18. And my mum at the same time was diagnosed with stage 1 cancer. So then 23 years old, a number of years later, while I was running APAC, Middle East, and a lot of Europe, my parents separated with my dad leaving. My sister, 6 months later, got meningitis and nearly passed away. A week later, my beloved auntie made a decision. And then also I was in a very emotionally abusive relationship throughout that whole time. So at 23 years old, that was all in the space of, it was 18 months. And then to top that all off, when I was then 24, my mum was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And then, yeah, 5 years later, that's where that time came to an end. And she passed away quite very much like my mother. She actually passed away on my brother's birthday on November 2022. She always wanted it to be a day that we would celebrate. And so what better way than doing it on your brother's birthday, on your son's birthday? So those were the experiences I was keeping very busy from feeling and didn't know how to manage for obvious reasons. Now, at that time when my mum was diagnosed as terminal cancer when I was 24, I really hit a crossroads. I made a decision at that time of, one, I need to be available to help my family. I need flexibility. And two, I need to be available for whenever my mum needed me. When she would have a seizure, I could easily get there, live really close to her working from home. If she needed support to go to the bathroom, I can quickly come around and do that. And then the second decision as well was, I was very vocal from a young age of, I'm going to achieve this success. I'm going to achieve this. I'm going to do that. You're going to see me in all the news and so on and so forth. And suddenly I had a time frame where if I wanted to have my mum see that experience, then I had to get going now. I had done a lot of businesses, this and that, but never truly achieved what I set out, told her I would. And so I decided to pretty much go 100% at that vision and make those decisions and to support the family. And so I went to my best friend at the time. I was like, look, I need to set up a business. I'm tired of working for somebody as well. You want to set up a business? Let's find something. So that was literally how it started. And he showed me this platform called ManyChat. Now, some of you may have heard of that, very successful platform now, where you could create chatbots on social media. So on Instagram and Facebook, you could create a chatbot. Very simple, and this was six years ago. Now, the opportunity that I saw immediately, and I'm sure some of you relate to this as well, when I was shown ManyChat, it was like this whole vision of this world I saw was just revealed to me. It's the only way I can describe it. And from that, I saw the business model, I saw the value, could just see this whole world ahead of me. And the opportunity I saw was from my DJing lens, nightclubs were investing a lot of time and money to build their social media following and to get a lot of engagement from the community. Like so many businesses, they invest a lot to get social engagement, build a following. But the question I asked was, well, what happens with all of that engagement? They're working hard for it, they get it, now what happens? And the answer is nothing. If you message any of the most followed people in the world, you will never get a response. So I asked them, hey, how can I book a table? It might be hard to see, but down the bottom here, it quite literally says, the account can't receive your message because they don't allow new message requests from everyone. And so your most engaged fans are never responded to. You're not getting the emails. You don't know anything about them. You're basically not replying to any revenue opportunities. So it's all wasted. So that's what I saw in the local market. And then I realized it was a global problem. If you comment on Kendrick Lamar's post with 164,000 comments, not a single person's replied to. Not a single person gets a message. They don't get a like. Absolutely nothing. I messaged the LA Lakers on the 26th of June this year, a very high conversion message, and I never got a response. So that's where I realized this was a global problem, and thus it was the global opportunity I was looking for as well. And that's when I founded what's now called IzzyAgents. So I founded that when I was 25, now 31 years old, and it's been a phenomenal journey. We're now one of the most trusted social media AI agencies in the world. Worked with the Australian Prime Minister, local political parties, worked with National Party in New Zealand, the NHS. With the NHS, we help them recruit people for adult social care, which is funny enough the people that would help people like my mum, because they have a massive shortage in that staff. So we educate them on expectations, who's a good fit. Why is this actually a far more enjoyable role and not as hard as you think? And then we got brands I just love, the All Blacks, most followed rugby team in the world, and New Zealand's pinnacle of a brand. The likes of KFC, Live Nation, who run 1,200 music festivals a year around the world. They invest all this time on social media to connect with people, and we're helping them utilize that. And now our solution and what that actually looks like. So what does the product itself as a user experience be? what we do now is we are developing and managing AI agents for the world's largest social media accounts. So we're increasing their revenue, we're improving the customer support efficiency and reducing the cost. But the really big one in particular is we're improving fan experiences. When I would comment on a Kendrick Lamar post, I now would get a good experience. He's definitely on my hit list of clients I really want to bring on board, especially from the DJ background. But also we're helping them love you even more. Now, in terms of what that looks like, so we'll open this up here. So this is the All Blacks. Now, if you were to message them on Facebook or Instagram, it opens up these options. So instead of that nightclub or the LA Lakers example, we're saying, Kia ora, welcome to the All Blacks messenger space. Our chatbot is here to answer questions and provide you with support. And as a fan, you can swipe through this gallery. So here is NZR Plus. That's their streaming service for everything NZ rugby. And so a lot of fans aren't aware of that. Now they're aware of it. They can click and go convert. Easily buy tickets and put some humor, pretty funny imagery in there as well. And so it's very similar behaviorally for the human brain of it's a swiping experience after being on social media. Within that, we then have AI we've developed for them, their own chat GPT in a way. We're saying, look, where can I buy tickets? Just type that out. The AI understands that intent, that sentiment, and then responds saying, look, for all ticketing, check that all out here below. And with a music festival, we've even got it to a point where you can say, hey, I want to buy tickets that's in this campground and this type of tent. Does it come with a mattress? The AI is trained and can answer all of those queries. So if you compare this to that LA Lakers experience and the amount of revenue they're missing out on, the inefficiency of connecting with their most engaged audience, they're complete polar opposites as an experience. And my goal is making it a no-brainer. They should absolutely have a solution in place like this. Did I answer that question? So yeah, it can, and we can create pretty fun spaces as well, where these kind of quizzes of which All Black would you be? Answer a few questions, we get insights on the audience. We can then tell them, hey, look, this is the best All Black that you would be or most similar to you. Now, a few other examples as well. So the support AI agent, that's very much like the All Blacks example. Now, the community AI engagement, this is a music artist called Alice in Wonderland. She's got just under 1 million followers on Instagram. She does a post saying, comment on this post and I'll personally DM you something special. You imagine a well-followed music artist, your favorite, says, look, comment on this post and I'll message you. So team member comments with a few flame emojis. You then get a message from that music artist. So every single comment, we can directly message them and say, hey, I saw your comment, get your pre-save for my latest music track before it's released. So now all that engagement, say with Kendrick, 164,000, we can send that through to Spotify players or for pre-saves of upcoming songs that are released. So that engagement's not wasted. But then from a fan engagement perspective, we can send a voice note from Alice in Wonderland. So at the time of the campaign, the song wasn't released. They'll just pre-save it. You say, hey, as a big thanks, here's the unreleased song that you can listen in the inbox before I release it. And that might be a note from Alison saying, hey, thank you so much for the support and for the love. By the way, here's a surprise. Here's my unreleased song for you. So it's that AI, using AI to connect personalization at scale. Whereas the manual, like there's no way they could do this with manual resource. Another just use case sharing what that looks like, this one here, is lead generation. So instead of sending them off to a website, completing a lead form, AI on Instagram, and in this case, it's an immigration lawyer. We generate 2,500 leads a month for her by having an AI that analyzes her comments for revenue sentiment and for people looking for help. And then it directly messages them and takes them through a lead flow, all within social media. So here we're saying, look, what type of visa are you interested in applying for? So we keep it really generic. And that's where then people share their life story. So I want a skilled visa for New South Wales and Australia. I've got 2 kids, husband, 15 years web experience. So they go through that, and the AI understands, look, for a skilled visa, can you tell me if you've already completed the skills assessment? Do you have an idea of the subclass of visa that you're looking for? And it will take them through qualifying questions, and then we integrate that into their CRM as a new lead that then immediately arranges a booking that's a paid booking for a legal consult. So yeah, a few examples there of what's possible. Just want to check there's Susan, Todd. Is it best doing questions at the end or just questions halfway through? What works best?
Whatever you would like. We can keep going, and
Yeah.
then we'll open it up to Q&A.
Well, I think yeah, I'm happy to take some questions now as we're on that topic of the examples, and just conversation. I'll run it through. Yeah, if
Folks,
anybody
you
has
have any
questions, feel
questions,
free to
please
go
raise
for
your
it.
Zoom hands, and we'll call on you, and Josh can answer them. If not, keep going.
Yeah.
Hey,
Cool.
Josh, have you had to, Josh, Dino, have you had to, with the advent of the GPT and all of the changes that are coming, have you designed your architecture so that you can plug these even better and better multimodal type models in now? Is that how you've sort of designed it?
Great question. So 4 years ago, I actually took on investment from New Zealand's biggest website company, a company called Zealed, just, I think it was 2 months before first COVID lockdowns. And the vision we actually had was building our own platform, similar to Ambit that you might be aware of, Dean. Now, we actually went quite far down that process, and we saw we're not going to win that game. We don't have the expertise, we don't have that knowledge, we don't have the money, and so on. So what we've actually done is we've stopped our own platform, and we're completely platform agnostic. And so we have one client, they are, or soon to be client, should I say, they do tax refunds. And now they need it all on their own server with own requirements. So we go, right, this is the best platform for that. We work in that way. We're also building an AI, I know Todd, you shared around the AI doctor space. We've already proven the build where it's AI doctors can message it for guidance on our client's 300 product range, and it recommends the right product and dosage for them and prints out a doctor's letter. Now that has completely different requirements. So we make sure the best service is implemented based on what they need, and so we can use anything that's available. Yeah, great question, Dina.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dean. Dawn.
So I guess my question is a little bit piggybacking on that last one. The examples that you've given have been pretty diverse, different types of industries, and I'm just wondering about training to be able to understand and provide the right kind of prompts for those, and what that is like dealing with some very different types of businesses.
Yes, the answer to that is it's not the most scalable, is the immediate thought. So that's where right now as a business, we're finding a lot of product market fit. And so that's where we're taking on any deals and opportunities that are coming to us with an AI requirement, specifically usually on social media, where it is time consuming. And we have a one-time setup fee that reflects that based on the level of customization needed. So we're quite flexible in how we're set up. And from that, we are intending, we need a niche down. More and more people are going to come into this industry. And so as we've got 5 years, 6 years experience, but we really need to focus in and own one part of the market. But for now, it is costly, timely, and very, very custom to that. Yeah.
Thanks, Dawn. Gabrielle.
I was just wondering about your categories. So I see support, community, and sales. Is it limited to that, or are those the three, categories that your AI supports?
Yeah, this is the best way I've found to describe it when we're talking to customers who are just entering the AI space, categorizing, look, this is a sales AI agent. This is to help you with community management. This is to help you with support.
Right.
Another example of that, I've got a slide on some cool use cases, but one of those is with the Paralympics in New Zealand. They have a challenge where they would have people commenting, bullying the athletes for their disability, making fun of them, and sharing fake streaming links on Olympics New Zealand as well. So threats to the community. All we do is an AI that analyzes the sentiment of the comments And as soon as somebody comments, it goes through our AI filter. And if it's negative in the form that it's trained on, it immediately deletes it. So that's where there is no conversational component, but it helps support them with community management, for example.
Right.
So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, our real kind of lane is social media in particular, is our wide niche at this time. Yeah, great. All right, assuming no other questions, keep rolling on through.
Keep going, keep going.
Yeah. All right, I think this is actually where we go to, yeah, those proud use cases. So I mentioned the ones around the Olympics, the NHS I've mentioned as well. With the NHS, it was actually the best performing ad campaign they've run across the entire of the NHS before. So people are very used to or comfortable now to talk to an automated bot and self-serve 24/7. Another example was during COVID, local New Zealand iwi, which is like a local tribe. We did mental health check-ins during COVID because the actual iwi support team, they couldn't go calling every single person in their tribe around New Zealand saying, hey, how are you finding lockdowns? Do you need any support? And that's quite confronting to tell somebody you don't know that well of, yeah, I'm struggling, I need some resources, or my kids are struggling. So we created this scaled chatbot way of people can do a check-in and it will identify who needs help and support. So the iwi's leadership team can then prioritize and jump in when it identified people needing mental health support. They absolutely loved it. It was incredibly good. Supporting the doctors I mentioned as well. That's in an industry, I can't go into the finer detail, but in an industry where doctors are having to learn so much about new different types of medicine that's available and solutions, that the AI is helping support them. So they don't have to learn all of the knowledge about that industry and that field of options. It's just going to help support them straight away. And the immigration lawyer just helping thousands of people get clarity on how they can move country and build a new life. So we've done some really incredible campaigns that are really positive impacts. It's great to share. In terms of results, so one is, say, when I'm sure a lot of you experience too with competition and giveaway campaigns on social media. Comment on this post and go on to win a holiday to Fiji or something like that. They get thousands of comments, don't reply to anybody. It's a lot of attention wasted again. For one client, we generated $70,000 worth of revenue in 48 hours, simply by replying to every comment saying, hey, unfortunately, you didn't win, but as a thanks for being part of the competition, here's 15% off. Like, it's really simple, logical from marketing side of things. We find for those competitions, 87% of people who do comment give us the email address, and we've collected up to 11,000 emails in 72 hours. So really kind of liquid gold for them. And yeah, other comments. We've got a lot of results there, but these are the real standout ones I thought to share today. So that's really covers what we do as a business and the examples of that experience. Now it's more going into where are we at as a business, where are we aiming to go towards, and what help that we feel that we're needing, what challenges we have. So underlying for the business, our purpose as a whole is really nurturing relationships using conversational automation and AI like you've seen. And as a result, people feel more highly valued and they're better served. And as a result, they become more deeply connected to the brand. So that example of the All Blacks versus the LA Lakers of being ignored, that creates that deeper connection. And as a summary, we've labeled this our journey to belonging. Our belief that AI is there to amplify what companies really want to provide, but are unable to. And in terms of our BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal, is help brands to 100 times the amount of people that are deeply connected to them. If they're deeply connected, they buy. If they're deeply connected, they feel like they belong to something. In a world where there is a lot of loneliness from social media, this can actually be a place where they can build community and really connect. So that's what we see as the potential with AI and what lane we really want to stick to within that. Our 5 to 10 year plan, thinking very long term with the business. So one is really identify 1 to 3 high margin industry verticals to specialize in. So that talks to, at the moment, we're quite wide, although being within social media, everybody's on social. So we want to be really highly focused and specialized in 1 or 3 verticals The ones that we're getting validation with at the moment, I mean, obviously I've shared, we work with phenomenal brands, but where we're seeing the best value and see the biggest opportunity, e-commerce and retail, just pure customer support. They spend the most on social media as well. Fitness influencers, they have a massive impact in the world to help drive positive health and the wider impact that has for the world, but also as they are entirely reliant on social media. They exist because they are followed on social media. Without that, they don't. And then sports teams, again, huge area of connection, belonging, building community, and music festivals and music artists. Again, the impact that these have in the world of that feeling of belonging and community, while also bring great returns financially, that trade-off. Those are the ones we see the biggest opportunity to get that validation right now. The other real key part of the plan is complete development of product services that are very specific on that vertical. I see the AI space, like AI agencies, being very much like the social media marketing agency or digital marketing agencies. I think a lot of people are going to suddenly flood into it. I think as well, it's going to be a little bit of the Wild West where bad AI is going to be incredibly negatively impactful for brands. And so we want to make sure, look, we focus in on these verticals. We are the best at these strategies, campaigns, techniques, and we can be most efficient with that as a result. From pure revenue side, we want to grow to 40 million ARR. And the goal is actually to exit. We've had that intention early on, which I think makes us very strategic in decision making. But we see the ideal strategic exit being to a Dentsu or an Omnicom Group or Publicis, and a goal of 78 million or more. Where we see our multiplier being unique is the strength of the IP and the know-how we're developing in those verticals. The growing industry that AI is, and the quality of clients. Like the quality of clients we have in Asia-Pac region we've been focusing on is the most followed, most well-known brands. And the goal is to actually expand that to the US, be the most trusted in the US as well. So that brings me to this area of we need to complete product market fit and finalize those verticals now. And then from there, the next step is securing pilot clients in those verticals in the US market. The challenge we've had the last 4 or 5 years is being an AI agency, as I'll call it. We've been operating in New Zealand, which is not a scale country, although we have a scale product. So that doesn't really work hand in hand and makes things very challenging. I think the beautiful takeaway from that experience as well is operationally, we are beautifully efficient, because that was the only way we could make profit there. And we're profitable now, but that was quite challenging and was very confronting over those years. So to come into the US being very operationally streamlined and the profits available with that, and the size and value we can bring just because it's so much bigger, that's our real focus of getting pilot clients in those verticals. And lastly, so yeah, last slide just to cover is what are those challenges that we're having, or areas we don't have much clarity on that we want to be very specific to. One is securing those pilot customers in the US. We have always grown through word of mouth, but myself being actually based in Australia, although sounding full Kiwi proudly, so I'm based in the Gold Coast. Now, that makes it challenging to be growing in the US when a lot of our business is word of mouth. That said, we have signed fitness influencers who are connected globally. And so referrals is how we operate, and also events and conferences. So I actually presented at a conference based in Washington yesterday, joined that online, and that's opened a lot of opportunities. So we see the direction to go in to get those pilot customers, but how can we scale far larger, like what Dean and Susan were talking about early on, of it's getting that awareness. And the last point there is, how are we going to scale that client acquisition and that awareness? Do we continue bootstrapping because of how profitable we can be from a few clients and retain that ownership? And also knowing partnership that works really well for us. Do we maybe get funders on, or a partner? Maybe that's a Dentsu or Omnicom Group getting in early now, and then we're supporting, growing together. That then sets us up nicely for an exit at that time. But we don't know what approach we should be taking there right now, what journey we want to sign up for. So that is, yeah, very proudly, that is my story. That is where we're at as a business as well. And yeah, I hope that was really valuable, quite of interest.
Josh, thank you. This is really fascinating. Very exciting niche that you've carved
Thank you.
out here. This
Mhm.
is, I see, I've got tons of
Thanks.
questions, but let's go to the folks who've raised their hands, Gabriel, and then we'll go to Sima.
That was awesome. Thank you for your presentation. Very, very
Thank you.
fascinating. And it's actually really interesting because I've started to notice that happening. You know, I live in Texas. I've started to notice responses, automated responses when I make comments on things on Instagram, which I think I tied to either initially, I think they were probably triggered by certain keywords, but now that
Yes.
seems to be broadening. So I think now is definitely an awesome time because what you're doing seems to be happening on the state side, but I can tell that right now it's very clunky. You know, sometimes the response
Yeah.
doesn't seem to match, you know, my comment and things like that. So I'm just curious
Yes.
about if you've noticed that and, you know, what you're thinking to do
Yes.
strategically to compete with people who are trying to do what
What
you do.
we've Yeah, what we've been seeing is it's very keyword focused. It's not understanding context. It's very much
Right.
people taking a simple term and approaching it, because these platforms like ManyChat make it look really easy. But to actually have it feel like you might have experienced, you're forced down a flow of conversation as opposed to the brand following the conversation you want to have.
Very
So
true.
they're the one pushing that. And so that's where we see our differences. We have developed our own integration into these platforms where we can have the rich imagery and guiding through and reporting, while also our own AI approach that links in. And it is like, it's our approach of conversation. I think that's what's going to be a unique bit of IP in the industry of how do you make a great conversation? The power of great questions and understanding of an audience is crucial. Towards that point as well, we're actually working with some behavioral scientists where we can do nudging based on that individual and what we've learned about them, so it resonates most with them and what's most important to them as well. So yeah, it's very much expanding, but I think a lot of the agencies aren't asking those questions, or people starting in the industry aren't asking the questions to make it very intuitive.
I completely agree. That's been my experience. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
You're
Gabriel.
welcome.
Sima, and then we'll go to Victor.
Hi, Joshua. Great presentation. I have a question around some of your implementation for the clientele you had. What was the difference in strategies when you built this for the NHS versus a sports team? And what were the pros and cons between the two industries? I work in healthcare, so I'm very interested in knowing how this went forward.
Yeah, there's two parts to that. One is the underlying basis that every single one of our clients shares in common is that they're talking with human beings and they're talking with people. And that is a consistent factor of how does the human brain respond? How do people feel connected and feel understood and acknowledged? So that's consistent across everybody. And then it comes down to what is the best strategy of how are we getting people's attention? So with the NHS, they don't get many messages about adult social care. And so we can't just rely on organic traffic, versus the All Blacks get inundated. Everybody's sharing their message on all types of topics. And so that's where we go, how are you getting the traffic? And also, how are we going to turn that traffic into what is success for you as a brand? And what is success for the people that are messaging you? We need to adhere to what they want first before you go, hey, buy our merchandise. It's like, no, like, well, what are you after? Let's help you first. So in the example of the NHS, it was an Instagram ad campaign that was targeted towards people that would have an interest in adult social care, who would be a fit. When they started that conversation, that's when they then had the experience educating them about adult social care, and what we saw as conversions. I think we had, it was a top of mind, I think it was 78% of every conversation went through to a key conversion. So great ad targeting and great conversation to educate them. Now with the All Blacks side, their goal is email collection, fan connection, and also just revenue. And so completely different art of conversation with that context. yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thanks,
Right.
Simon. Victor, and then we'll go to Olga.
Yes, thanks so much for presenting tonight, Joshua. It was a very interesting piece that you've done. The one thing that jumped out at me is a little bit of a tangent, if you don't mind, and that is the sentiment analysis piece. You mentioned that you're working with behavioral scientists, and that compelled me to ask further about that, because it strikes me that that piece by itself, as much as it supports everything that you're doing on your platform for your purpose, if you have or your trajectory will develop a truly differentiated sentiment analysis tool that could be licensed as a module for many, many other purposes that you and your colleagues may not have the breadth or the passion to pursue, but could be very, very valuable if it's truly deeper, and I'll just use the term better than what's already out there. The words that rang out to me were when you detect that someone needs help. I know of people working on platform for determining the degree of help someone needs when they're homeless, when they're financially strapped, when they're depressed, but not going so far as to say we're going to be the digital psychologist, right? So there's a line there that you and maybe others don't want to cross into, but it just crossed my mind to ask if you have that perspective on that piece of your tool.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And we've seen as a business, if we look at our strengths in particular, we are really good at building good products that are highly valued and highly custom for a client's goals and outcomes. But what we don't have is that existing list of clients, and that distribution is not our strongest point, in my opinion. It's been great through the word of mouth and just pure hard outbound sales, but not scaled distribution. And so what we've been evaluating as a strategy is a whole partner channel model. We are great at fulfillment and providing and doing that, but they are really good at client management at a very enterprise level. They already have trusted relationships, and our other kind of vertical in general is well-known brands doing it in the best way possible. And so they you can't just cold call the LA Lakers, but they absolutely need it. Who has that trusted relationship? So to your point of, if we have that sentiment analysis tool that we have now at a surface level and it's custom per client, having a partner and kind of licensing in a way of going, look, you sell this, you get X% commission on it, and you just manage the client like you're already doing. This is a new product you can sell them. End of the day, they're going to buy it from a provider at some point. Why not be you? That's another kind of go-to-market channel we've been evaluating, funnily enough.
Yes, and I guess my background thought is in the clinical space, where you're trying to analyze, for example, how a patient is tolerating their treatment, or how, to your experience and candidly to mine about elder care, what outreach could come from sentiment analysis of the caregiver's frame of mind or journey, let's say, in that arena. Maybe out of bounds for what you're doing now, but well, it sounds like you have the potential to build that module out to something differentiated.
And part of our challenge as well, just adding to that, is, if we call it the entrepreneurial shiny object syndrome. And the thing I've always had with this business as a whole is there are so many opportunities, and kind of going, well, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And as you've seen, kind of been doing that, but really owning a lane and going deep into it and seeing what is the best lane for us to go into. That's something of, keeping myself well behaved, because I love just creating new things. That whole thing of, I've got a vision and I know we can execute on it, and I know it would bring value to the world. If the opportunity comes up, we do it. Yeah.
That's the point. Thank you.
Thanks, Victor.
Thanks, Victor. Olga.
Yes, hi Josh. I love your presentation. I guess I love the idea
Thank you.
of doing all those things. I'm just trying to see how I can, if I was your customer, how I can quickly apply your tool to an average company that does B2B, B2C, and get a look under the hood. Do I have to have a social media account, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram? Can it be company's website? What do I have to have or I must not have? And what are the main steps to make it successful when it's not a business that sells everything to everybody, but it's a more specialized business that has a niche for its product?
So where we see, good questions, by the way. When we see the best value and the kind of the minimum requirements for implementing AI in a scaled solution is one, having a big social media presence. Now, usually we have that as minimum 20,000 followers. And that's really for online coaches, for instance. Then because of usual engagement rate on social media, say being 1.5%, if that's 20,000 followers, then you actually should be at a stage of personalized responding and doing it manually to build that unique connection to the audience before that then gets you to a position to then scale that when that's validated and the insights of those conversations. Beyond the online coaches, it's usually that 75,000 plus followers on Instagram or on Facebook, not so much collectively, because then you have the amount of engagement where you need an AI or scaled solution to provide that connection and provide the best experience. The way that we work is we are completely done for you. And so with our clients, the complexities of, hey, if you want to go behind the hood on all things AI, more out of curiosity point, because we just say, look, what outcome do you want? All right, done, we'll do that. You focus on what you're great at in your day-to-day, and we'll manage this whole side of things. We used to give clients access to it. That's led to just more questions and confusion than anything else. So we just go, right, what do you want to achieve? We'll build and manage the entire experience and everything done for you. And we'll ask you what we need to know, and then we get it done. Does that answer all your questions there, Olga? Anything on further?
Yes, so it has to be on the social media platform, what you're saying, right?
Yes, that's where I would suggest it's the most. Also, as I didn't reference the B2B versus B2C. B2B, we can do website AI chatbots. So we're doing that for an accounting firm at the moment, because if that just leads to a few deals, it's highly profitable from their investment. So that's the other opportunity. And in terms of website traffic, website chatbots, if we call them that, they usually get between a 2 to 3% usage rate. And so that's really, you want to be, definitely tens of thousands of website visits per month to warrant that investment that's likely to get the amount of engagement needed.
Mm-hmm. And if you have a social media, let's say you have a LinkedIn account for the company, and I don't know how many current visitors we have and followers we have, you have to have quite a bit, right, to make it
Yeah, LinkedIn, Microsoft doesn't like opening their APIs too much with LinkedIn. And so we can't do any automated conversations on LinkedIn. And it's the same with TikTok, where I'm actually advising TikTok in Asia Pacific. I took a pretty aggressive approach to them saying, look, I can do all of this on Meta. Why can't I do it on TikTok? They're beating you. And that got the right response I was looking for. And so that's where it's very much Meta platforms, including WhatsApp. And then there's Viber, Line, WeChat, Telegram, Discord. There's multiple of these other platforms. And we tend to mention those when it's right for the client and the client actually is using them. In the case that you're describing, it would probably be a website chatbot if there's not the social media engagement to warrant scaling it.
Yeah, but you can build it on the company's website if needed.
Correct. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Olga. Before we get to Kelly, hold on a sec, Kelly. Jorg had a question in the Zoom chat, so I'm going to read it. Would you please address the team composition, qualifications, and the company valuation? What amount of funding are you seeking, and the plan to use those funds?
Yes. So team composition wise, so that's where we've been leaning on Zealed as an operations and their whole experience of 25 years. So with that, we've got 3 developers in the Philippines. I've got a COO based in the Philippines as well, such as talking to the ability to make it profitable in New Zealand and using that team and that resource. We then have our global experts, which the Philippines team support. So we've got 1 developer and strategist in the US as we start taking on more US clients and manage the time zone. And we've also got a real technical expert. He's from the UK, but he works multiple different hours. So the beauty of our model has been once that AI agent is set up and bringing value to the clients, we make some small refinements each month, but otherwise it's just running. So once that, it's pretty much like we build the AI employee, it then starts running, we then make our money on the monthly retainer after that's set up. So we don't need much of a big team, keep things pretty lean. And that's kind of the bootstrap approach. Yep. And then to answer around valuation and funding, we haven't really gone through an evaluation process and we're not sure about raising funds at the moment. So that's that kind of question of what approach do we want to take? And as founders, what journey do I want to sign up for the next 5 to 10 years? So yeah, we don't really have answers to those questions right now.
Awesome, thanks. Kelly, and then we'll go to Susan.
Well, I think that may have answered my question. I'm looking at this particular slide, and you're scaling client acquisition, bootstrap fund, or do it through strategic partnerships. And these are funding questions, I would imagine, not necessarily tactical questions. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's somewhat. Yeah, I would say it's really the funding approach because then it's the matter of how are we going to use those funds, perhaps, because that then changes the tactical approach if we had funding versus bootstrapping.
And do you have the ability to bootstrap if you're not going to go out to funders?
We absolutely do. Yep.
Okay. And so you would go to funding to get additional funds to scale at a much more rapid pace? Would that be the reason you would bring on outside capital?
That's correct. Yeah, it would pretty much be speeding things up if we felt that, and I guess that's where with AI moving so quickly and rapidly, do we need to be going faster to just have a seat at the table? Or is there a world where, yeah, it's going quickly, but the way that we could bootstrap it, it's more, we need to be tactically fast and it may not require funding to be quick from a bootstrapped method.
Okay. And the final is a statement. We should do this offline though, but and this is going to look a little weird and sound a little weird, but if you wish to talk a little bit more about the hip hop community and the DJ community here in the United States, happy to assist, because I'm the face of hip hop in the United States. No, but we've got.
I'd love to say I see it, Kelly, but
yeah, don't see it. I hope you don't anyway. No, we've got good connections into that community as well. So, okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Susan.
Yeah, so this is just so cool and neat. And I'm glad that Olga asked her question because I had a similar one about B2B. But now my question is, like, you talked the first part of your talk from a very vulnerable place. And now it looks like everything is super cool and it's wonderful and everything's working. And even your challenges are like, how do we get more money? That kind of stuff. So yeah. Can you talk a little bit about some of your other barriers that maybe are more vulnerable kind of barrier sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start by saying I've had, and I think one of the reasons I've been able to go through the experiences I've had and come out to where I am now is I've had phenomenal coaches and mentors around me and really seen the value in investing in that. So I've had I've done silence retreat meditations. I've done a whole array of other retreats deep into meditation. I've also done challenges inspired by old friend David Goggins. So a friend of mine walked, say, 100 kilometers in under 24 hours with no training and ended up raising good money for charity. So with those experiences, I've come to a really good place. I've got a coach now. We're really uncovering more of my kind of childhood experiences that have reflected decision makings that I've made. Where I'm at now is a crossroads of I highly value family based on those experiences with my two siblings in particular, extremely close. The prospect of moving to the US is really going, look, that's properly going after the growth that I have and the vision I have as a business. But that also means leaving my siblings. And as the oldest, that's been the protector and commonly referred to as dad is, well, I'm gone. Like I'm going to the US and I'm doing my thing. And the internal conflict and that has, and also going, I've been prioritizing and building success and achieving things for so long. I've been single for 6.5 years. I haven't had the time, haven't had the space, some internal blockages there too. And then very recently in the last kind of month, started seeing somebody. And so the value of what that has in my life and how much I appreciate it being so large, but at the same time as a business going, I need to be going to the US. I need to be pushing to a higher degree. So the questions I'm also asking within that client acquisition strategy and the tactics is, what is a world where I can have both and have it all? And that's kind of the personal situation of what approach is a life that I want to live, an approach of experiencing life now, knowing how short it is, while also wanting to achieve the biggest amount of success I know I'm capable of, that I don't think, well, what if? Great question, Susan. Deep question.
Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. Dean.
Yeah, Joshua, I know you've had some time in the US here, and you landed a couple of really good meetings, and Kelly's suggestion, you won't regret that one bit. But I do challenge you if you want to hit that 78 million, will you be able to do that out of New Zealand and the Gold Coast? I would say at the time with the tech stat changing so quickly. So it's going to be a big decision for you to go, that is my goal. I said with my, with your mum and so on and so forth. And yet you're so close to family. I know you are. So it's going to be interesting. Do you have shareholders in your business, or are you the sole 100% shareholder?
I have shareholders in the business, which is Zealed, that are in there. And
You're
it's
right.
interesting from the Zealed main founder, David Kelly.
Yes.
He shared with me going, Josh, you're 31 with a business you can operate globally that actually has real global prospects that so many businesses do not.
Yep.
That is a unique opportunity that you really got to seize. So it's,
exactly.
all the lenses.
So my point is that, Craig and I had to make that decision, right? In New Zealand, if we were going to sell for over 100 million, you ain't going to do it in New Zealand. So I think that's a really big decision you need to make. And, and when we did start coming over here, it's hard to stop, and we'd be away for 6 weeks at a time. So, and then there's funding from NZTE, as you know, and you'd get that funding of 600,000 to open up. I absolutely know you will. So you really need to my feeling is that you really need to think about that, especially with your shareholders, of how you are going to achieve that. It's a big decision.
Yeah. And one of those approaches we're looking at currently is, say, instead of going for, the prior goal was for me to actually move to LA.
Yeah, exactly.
October.
Yeah.
Like this month.
Yep.
But then going, well, with the bootstrapped approach being very specific on, well, why not get the momentum there first, invest in running ads to generate business over there, be very strategic and travel over there and get the momentum. So travel there, speak at conferences, do conference circuits for the best return on that investment of being there. And then once we've really got that momentum, it's more me traveling to support existing growth or moving to amplify the existing growth. So that's what we're thinking right now. So the plan is definitely expanding that US presence in a very considered way, I would describe it, and then kind of building a life in the city that I'm in. You go, all right, well, that's how that goes. Yeah.
I'll say one more point, and that is absolutely, you're going to have to, if you're going to the US, you're going to have to own a space big time. You just can't afford to go wide because there's too much potential competition. So I think
Agreed.
yeah, so have a chat to Kelly.
Yeah. Sounds good, Dina.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Dean.
man.
Actually, so Mike, Simon just raised her hand, and I'll ask my question.
Sorry, I just wanted to make a comment, Joshua. So I moved from Canada 5 years ago. The distance does not compare to New Zealand, but I'm very close to my family in Toronto as well. And it was the best decision I made to come to Boston because it is like the amount of opportunities that are available in the US. And I think Canada, Australia, and New Zealand are very similar in terms of the type of opportunities and funding and scale. So just from one opinion, I have never looked back. The only thing I argue with my colleagues here is around the metric system, but I have all this apps to help me with that. But
I so
definitely
echo such a comment.
yeah, definitely it's been worth it.
Thank you for that.
Metric system, Sima. Oh man. So Joshua, thank you for doing this. I guess Dean asked to mention the competitive landscape and competitors. Strategically, how are you addressing that? How do you? I mean, I see a large competitive landscape for you guys. How are you strategically differentiating yourself?
Yeah, I think one is specifically being on social media versus just doing everything AI, say for operation efficiencies and for cold calling systems and so on. We're not touching anything voice AI, for example. So the specificity into social media for one, then going down into our verticals as a key differentiator, and then building out unique IP as our moats. On top of that is really just I think the ability to get really key clients that make us very trusted. So for instance, we've just signed on Hattie Boydell. So Hattie has competed at the Olympia for women's physique. She has 600,000 followers on social media. By getting her here, because we go to the same gym, she then knows everybody in the US that's within that field. So if we can get them all first, we become the domain of anybody who's looking at that, get referred to, go to us. So that's the other kind of differentiating of if we are the fitness go-to and we've got the best solutions, best product, most trusted. And for these pages, if you look at a Alice in Wonderland or if you look at a Kendrick Lamar, they're not just going to work with anybody because the access required to the page to be trusted to represent their voice to fans, it's only with somebody really credible. And so I think if we can own that market early, which we're doing, then that gets us really differentiated from somebody new coming in. Oh yeah, I've been doing it for the last year. Yeah, I've been doing it for 6. And we're trusted.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that strategy early on executing well gets you the first clients, and then you're able to grow from there. Brilliant.
There's also the I describe it, and we share this with potential clients too. It's a case I remember hiking a mountain down in Queenstown in New Zealand, and I saw the peak from the bottom. I was like, one, I'm very overweight at that time. There's no way I'm getting up there. Secondly, that's a long way. As soon as we got there, and I kind of raced my mate at the end who runs marathons, so I could say that I beat him. But once we got there, got around the corner, we realized that was nowhere near the peak. We had a whole, that was the first peak, right? And so the way I describe it is as soon as you open the world of AI and social media, you uncover these areas of, wait, I thought that was all I had to do. Now I have to do this. It's like being an entrepreneur. I think it would just be this, oh, now I'm going to do this part, this part, this part that you never saw coming. So one of those examples being, what if a music artist wants to still be able to use their inbox to talk to their friends? Well, how does the automation stay out of the way of that? And how are you defining that? How are you going to be responding to potential stalkers? How are you going to identify those stalkers? How do you have a block list? So there's all of these intricacies of, unless you've been doing it a long time, you'd have no idea that they have that as a real issue that it needs to be built around. And so we share that with them. We're also developing our own AI that analyzes all of our existing client AI builds, then scoring every conversation to recognize improvements and giving a total average score each week so we can see it improving. So these unique bits of information that you climb the peak, the next peak, the next peak, you know what that journey is. And so new people coming in that have been doing it for a year, they have no idea. what big pages need in particular and industry verticals.
That really hits home for me in terms of the competitive landscape, where anybody can sign up for any of these other platforms. That's a massive differentiator. And so you mentioned IP. Is that like this is patents that you have or applied for, or?
They're not, we'll call it intellectual property within the company, but needing, it's that base of going down that path, the expense that is for kind of bootstrapping. It's something we'll do later on. If there's a fit for that at the time, we'll see.
I love good trade secrets. They're helpful. So yeah, Craig, you've got your hand up. Thanks, Joshua.
Hey, Joshua. Hey, thanks for sharing your story. It's really fascinating. I've got just a question about, so you've got a potential new client, and say like in sports. How long would it take for a client to get up and running on average? And then did you say a client would pay a retainer? And if they do, do you contract them for a period of time? And if so, roughly what's the time frame?
What does that look like? So the one-time setup fee to initially develop it, then that would usually take us like 4 weeks. It takes 4 weeks to build it. We have one client that, say with Hattie, very specific build, specific intent. We'll get that done in 2 weeks' time. That Alice in Wonderland campaign took a week, and they gave us Facebook access the day before it went live. So that was fun. So we can do it faster. Now always happens. With the monthly retainer, so that's where we are doing the ongoing review, insights, improvements, updates to Meta. Meta's got compliance rules and regulations around what you can and can't say, periods of time for messaging. So we keep all of that, basically managing that AI employee and recommending improvements to improve its training. So we just manage that ongoing.
Got it. So, and across your client base, is the retainer, what sort of percentage of clients would continue paying a retainer, which is really almost like your SaaS?
Yeah, that's right. So from the client's estimated number, it's basically like 85, 90% of our clients are on retainer. The likes of, say, KFC, they would say, look, we're doing a launch of 7 weeks of giveaways. So we want it just for that one campaign. Burger Fuel and My Food Bag, we want it just for these campaigns. But once they get started and once they see what else we can be doing, like, oh, okay, this makes a lot of sense. So KFC, heavily under-resourced, they have to reply when people say they've got food poisoning very quickly. When people are commenting, saying that they have issues, we need to jump on that very quickly. And they do that all manually, and they do not, if there's one team that's very under-resourced, it's usually always marketing and customer support too, and go and manage everything. So they usually come on board for retainers after that one-time campaign as well.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah, good question there, Craig. Good to meet you as well, Craig. Heard many things.
Yeah, I've got some good contacts for you. I've been messaging Dean and some people that I'll introduce you to that I think can be very helpful in your business, particularly that have strong advertising links to Meta, Apple, and so on and so forth. So we'll connect later.
Right. Yep. Sounds very good.
So if anyone has any questions, please raise your hands. But Josh, this is impressive. Oh, we got one. Garrett. Thank you, Garrett.
It's kind of a, just a shot in the dark, or just throwing something out there. When I was thinking about what your product is, you're currently targeting people that have an existing audience, right? Like they have to have a following to be able to get a return on their investment with this. And I was wondering, is there like a way that you can make a smaller model that you can license out? For example, like Meta has their advertisement, right? The boosted posts. Is there a way that you can somehow piggyback onto that, like integrate into their system? Like let's say that you license it out to them. So then if I'm making a post that I'm gonna say maybe $500 for the week, and I need to have somehow to manage that engagement, is that another avenue where you can exist, or is that not really feasible?
That it is. It definitely, like we've played around with what we called an entry IzzyBot, where it was, you get this, we'll turn it around in like 3 days with your your links and your imagery, and that's just they're done. And we sold that to charities, and that was like $350 a month. Like, there it is, you've got it. The challenge that comes up is usually around support in particular. So if they've set that up and the expectation of, well, I want it to manage these questions, it's like, well, we can't template for that because it's so specific. So that was the challenge that we faced with it. The other is the potential of selling templates, where, hey, here's a template, you can now set that up and manage it yourself and really keep that streamlined. But again, the complexities in the space going, they're like, they need us to implement it. They just get stuck as that kind of SME business owner case. But it's something that we've still kept an open mind to, where what if we could have that integrate with, say, a Shopify store and immediately draw on all that information? It's just literal SaaS plug and play. But again, with the somewhat of the bootstrap nature of where are we going to focus in on. But yeah, it's a good idea to have documented down. I hadn't thought about, say, the meta integration with, say, running an ad, maybe drawing on that. Thought-provoking. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess since, I mean, you have such high customization on your site, that makes it pretty hard. But if there is some basic, entry level work, yeah, someone who's just doing a boosted post and they might get a decent amount. I don't know. Just a thought. Just wondering.
Yeah. That moment when they do get a lot of engagement and they do need it, we certainly have something for them.
Exactly.
And making sure that they're aware of us when they do that, and that we're considered. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
So
Thanks, Dean.
yeah, Josh, can you share with the group here how you actually decide what you charge? Like, is that by just looking at market research? Is that a little bit of influence from Zeld, who are your shareholders and obviously been amazing for you?
Yeah.
How do you decide that? Like, are you looking at cost plus? Are you looking at thumbsuck?
Probably the latter there, to be fair there, Dean. There's two parts to it. One is we really evaluate it per client.
Yeah.
And so what makes it a no-brainer for them? At the phase we're in, we need those clients on to increase profits to a point where we can make investments for scaled growth. And so every client really matters on that. And also getting that authority in the industry. So we know that we're quite underpriced, but we also are taking the strategy of, we want to have all the best known people in each industry, make it so easy for them that they just come on board, versus making that money. So some example of price points, we've got one fitness influencer, they're on $3,000 a month. And then we have, like, transparently with a large sports team, it's 1,500 NZD a month. And we manage about 5,000 conversations a month, because that's the sensitivity of pricing in New Zealand. So we are very much finding out how much are we worth compared to, like, the likes of, say, if we were selling in New York and the big teams there, or the LA Lakers. If we there go, oh, it's $5,000 a month, they're probably not even going to look at it, and it's not even considered. So it's the reverse psychology of the pricing. So we're very much playing around with that and expecting US being a whole different market. We need to then learn that as well. Yeah, good question. It's it's been a gray area for some time. Just how do we get to that price? Well, we know we can make profit on it, and we think they'll go for it. Yeah.
Dean, thanks. Susan, and then we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, so this has been great, Josh. Awesome. Just such a cool idea. And it's really lovely when somebody as successful and able as you are comes and shares the rest of your story, right? The hard piece of the story. Because, as you and Todd and I talked, a lot of people that are doing startups think we're all alone out there, right? And that, this stuff that's happening to us doesn't happen to other people. And so that was really, really great that you did that. So always the question we ask is, what can we do to help you?
Yeah, I mean, one, the questions that you've been asking, what kind of ideas coming from that's already been valuable, and the kind of challenges on approach, such as what Dean was mentioning there, of our aspirations and what's really needed to achieve that. A big part is people have no idea that this is possible. They just have no knowledge of it. again, being convinced if the LA Lakers knew this was possible, surely they'll just put a merchandise button there and make some money. So really, it's just awareness of if there's people that are coming to mind that would be great US pilots for us to help them out, and where it is a no-brainer. Introductions to help us start your growth in the US is probably the most valuable thing we could have right now, being very candid on that. It's clients and awareness and conversations to build relationships.
Cool. And obviously, Kelly gave you a glorious giant basketball to catch about his hip, because he is the king of hip hop in the United States. So so definitely follow up with him as well. And the rest of us will think about possible introductions too.
Yeah, thank you so much. And again, like as I said, through the journey that I've been on, where it was a business to just kind of help out and be available, and I had this real crossroads when I then finally got self-employed. I had this real internal conflict, this real kind of moment of, oh, my whole goal in life was to get self-employed, and now I am. What do I do now? I just wanted the time and availability. Now I've got it. Like, well, wait, I now want to be successful. What does that look like? And so now be kind of here speaking with you all is just, it's really a moment for me. So I really appreciate it. It's been awesome to meet a number of you and share that.
Josh, thank you for coming to join us and talking about your journey. This is really exciting. Good luck with IzzyAgents.
Yeah, I still need to get used to that one too.
IzzyBots, I was about to say. Thank you for coming. I'm going to stop the recording, but please do stick around for some overtime. And just as a little reminder, next week, our very own Pedro David Espinoza will be coming to talk about the real ROI, the return on inclusion. I'm going to end the recording now. Thank you all for coming.